let's go to Kumasi and deal with the impunity that occurred there. Let's quickly watch this clip, and we are going to watch two clips. One from the very first day when the Delta Force went into the offices of the man who had been appointed by the president, of the Republic of Ghana.
To be precise,
okay.
Appointed by the Minister of National Security.
Okay, Koku corrects me that appointed by the National Security Minister to be the liaison from that place. When they went in there and brought him out of his office, and then we show you what happened in the court on Thursday, is it? Thursday. Watch these clips. Before this incident, there was an earlier one. That's what I want you to watch now. The earlier one where the Delta Force went into the office of the man who had been appointed and pulled him out of his office, brought him out, dragged him through the corridor, pushed him down. At a point, he fell on the stairs. That's been cut. But there's a portion where you see him being brought out of the place on the corridors, and he falls to the ground in a way that you feel very sad for him. So now, again, John, how do you analyze this situation? That this is a group that obviously has been going about its, acts of lawlessness in the same manner as the Invisible Force has been, and they went to do this first, and they got arrested, and then we see what they did at the court premises, where we are now told that all of them, have turned themselves in, 13 of them.
Well, it's a very sad spectacle. Very unfortunate. Admittedly, we have had some incidents of violence in our political dispensation, right from 2001, and that's where I choose to take my submission from, when we had a change of government. I did indicate that in 2001, there were two clear situations where people were accosted, people were subjected to some forms of treatment. It's moved on to 2009, and I do recall going to a program with then Vice President Mahama, I think at the British Council, Lawyer Kujito was there when President Mama condemned some of these activities. And so there's been some attempts by leadership to condemn that. And I also recall that in 2009, thereabouts, between 2009 2010, then candidate Akufo-Addo held a press conference and directly held President Mills responsible, and even went on to threaten that if that incident was not kept, militants on the side of the MPP will be compelled to retaliate, and it will lead us to the path of chaos and all kinds of issues. We discuss the issues. But you see, the essence of democracy is that as we build on, as we keep reforming, we ought to be seeing a reduction of some of these incidents. At the initial stage, you could have some of these challenges. Look, there's a change of government. People think that their parties won, and so they attempt to do all kinds of things. But I think that it's become established that, look, we are not going to have a one-party state. I believe that we've moved to a level where multi-party democracy is entrenching, is gaining roots, and we ought to keep reforming the system to respond to the needs and aspirations of the ordinary Ghanaian. I'm not sure that anybody who went to the polls in 2016 voted for either NDC or MPP with the anticipation that we're going to have this. And so I was surprised that right after the elections, we seem to be witnessing an increase in the level of lawlessness, an increase in the level of activity of some of these vigilante groups, especially when the president himself, hitherto, established the fact that the presidency ought to be held responsible. Two, the president appeared before Parliament, before the august House of Parliament, and in his State of the Nation address, sought to move back, turn back the clock of time, gave us history of what happened and all that, but gave us firm assurance that that was the last of the last, and that we're not going to have any of this incident. Right after the president's own assurance, we saw what happened in Kumasi, where the national security liaison, or whoever you choose to call, appointed by government, these vigilante groups move there, accost him, take hold of him, drag him on the stairs, and the man falls on the stairs, on the staircase. Then the president goes to Dotunfo himself and assures him, in Kumasi, that look, this is the end of it. I would not encourage the culture of impunity. But that is where I get worried. You see, people might say that we shouldn't place value on the weight of certain people in terms of their utterances. But you see, and my senior rightly zoomed in on Parliament. We have 275 parliamentarians out of about 25 or 27 million Ghanaians. I think that I'm privileged. I think that I'm honored to have the opportunity to serve in Parliament. You are called an honorable member. You have certain immunities that the four of you don't have. I have those immunities and privileges. And so, the people of Ghana expect me to conduct myself above a certain standard, or at least I cannot descend below that standard. But you see, when the president made that statement, a sitting member of Parliament, dared the president, went ahead to meet the Delta Force members and proceeded to state that, look, if you put them before court...
A sitting member of Parliament, Ken Ejapong. So
Thank
name
you.
him. Yeah.
If you proceed to put them before court, I shall lead them in a demonstration against the president. Nobody condemned him. The Deputy General Secretary of the MPP comes forward and seeks to justify the actions of some of these vigilante groups and says that the takeover of the Kintampo waterfalls is a tit-for-tat affair. And so the members were justified to do that. You see, when the president condemns that, I thought what all of us would have done was to back the president and challenge the president to go beyond the talk and walk the talk, so that we see that beyond talking, you are taking action. I am not surprised that members of the Delta Force went to no less an institution than the courtroom, the last bastion of our hope when it comes to democratic governance is the courts. You see, we are not talking of people ventilating their concerns. We are not talking of people spewing out verbal articulation. We are talking of human beings, well-built macho men storming a court's premise, goes into the court, and I listen to their leader. And that is where I think the media ought to be interested in. That before they went there, they were assured by the leadership of the party that they had engaged the courts and that all they needed to do was to present themselves. In fact, it was a fait accompli, and that when they went there, nothing will happen. They'll be granted bail.
What's the source of this information?
Oh, I can read that. The leader,
I listened to him. From where?
I listened to him on no less.
You don't say this. You don't say this and
can
move
I
on.
make my point?
No. Wait.
Something. If
wait,
you allow me.
No, you have said something.
I
You will not be allowed to proceed.
yesterday.
No, hold on.
On the multimedia platform.
You listen to who?
The leader of the Delta Force.
What is his name?
Kaba hosted the program.
What is his name?
I cannot recollect his name. I'm
And
giving you
what?
evidence.
He said what?
That yesterday, I listened to Asempa. Kaba played his voice around 3:30, where he said that before they went to court, on the multimedia platform, before they went to court, they had received assurance from leadership of their party that they were going to be granted bail and that they numbered over 1,000. I listened, and I'm live on this program. I listened to him.
No, he's right to the extent that the gentleman said those
Yes, the
things.
gentleman who gave his name only as Ernest. End
don't
of
know.
story.
I'm not a media practitioner. I don't host the Asempa program. I presume that the host of the program and the producer would have done their checks before allowing the person on that live program.
Okay, proceed. Now you have brought some.
So, when they
name
went to
it.
court and they were not granted bail, they got infuriated and they went through that action. It is condemnable. But Samson, those of us who says that we shouldn't hold the state responsible, those of us who says we shouldn't hold the government responsible, those of us who says we shouldn't hold the president responsible, I beg to differ. If it happened under NDC, it doesn't mean that you couldn't have criticized it. It doesn't mean that the president would not have taken ultimate responsibility. Because the president who appoints a national security advisor, there's a national security minister, there's a minister for defense, there's a minister for interior, there's a national security coordinator, and deputies to most of these appointees. And so I would expect that the presidency will take the bull by the horn. And when the president says that, look, this is it, it must bring other confidence. I must have confidence and trust in the president. But if the president says A and X happens, tomorrow he says B and Y happens, it diminishes my confidence in the presidency. It reduces my confidence in what the president says. I am told that they've turned themselves in. But you see, it's not just about what is happening in Kumasi. Most of us former appointees, we are very worried by the way in which some of these vigilante groups go carrying out their activities. Because today, or yesterday, it could be Kofi Adams. It went to James Ejeni Boateng. It went to the former deputy minister, my friend, where they went and took his Land Cruiser, Ejekum. Tomorrow, it could be me. It could be you. And so when we are condemning it, and we seek to justify that, and seek to bring in that, look, it happened 5 years ago, it happened 4 years ago. That is why we are building a nation. That is why we are a democratic nation. Even elections, we keep reforming elections. Can we say that we use opaque ballot boxes 4, 5, 10 years ago, and so we should keep using opaque ballot boxes?
Have you heard?
We can't justify that.
Have you heard? You have already referred to the president, and you feel that he's been let down somewhat because, or he himself has not been able to bring, his powers to bear, on authority to bear on these issues to stop it, nip it in the bud, as he has suggested to Parliament and also assured Parliament and the Asantehene Otunfosu II. But you've heard the Interior Minister, you've heard the Minister for National Security, you've heard the IGP. On the very day the issue happened, the event happened, they called the media, and I'm told that these people were called to the Flagstaff house over an emergency. And after that, they spoke to the media and gave the fullest assurance that this will not recur. Is that not something
that even
to be
worsens,
excited?
that even worsens the case?
How?
Let me tell you. When they went and manhandled the security coordinator for the region, they were called in. They apologized to the president, apologized to the media, went back to Kumasi, and went forward to proceed to the court and conducted themselves in a worse manner than before the apology. Before the apology, they manhandled the security coordinator, came forward, apologized, and indicated that it won't happen again. So all of us said, well, if they've apologized, let's give them a second chance, only to go back and conduct themselves in a worse manner than before.
They had not been arrested.
So,
and then eventually, there was 13 arrests, all of them processed for court, granted bail at the level of the police. Of course, when you get to court, you must ask for bail again. So, was that not an indication that something serious was being done?
You see, we want results. It's good to say things. It's good to assure us. We want to go about our normal activities in peace.
What else could have the IGP, the National Security Minister, or the Interior Minister, or the President, what else could they have done in this situation?
Not just the President, both the President and the party. I expected the party to reprimand the honorable member. This morning.
To reprimand Kennedy
Certainly. This morning.
Okay, but Kennedy Japan has backtracked it.
I'm saying this
yesterday
morning.
Or so, he has changed.
That was yesterday. I'm talking
he has
of
changed
this
what
morning.
he said earlier. He
this
dared
morning
the president. He dared anybody to touch the guys, and that he will lead them on a demonstration. Now he has said that he's removed his support for his blessing for the guys, and that he rather will lead any process that will get the guys sanctioned.
Indulge me. This morning, on my way to your program, I tuned into Peace FM. The Honorable Kennedy Japan was on Peace FM through their affiliate in Kumasi, stating that he supports them fully.
Oh, it's not true. It's not true.
You mean I'm lying?
No, this one is not true. No.
Okay. How can you make that statement?
Okay, now we are not in a position to be able to verify and authenticate what you're saying.
No.
So
this one,
we take it on the value of the fact that this is unauthenticated.
I guess
you're saying
you can say it's not true.
Okay, so kindly finish up.
Morning.
You have your take. Kindly finish up. Yeah.
Are you surprised that he can do that? Are you surprised?
I was also on the line at the same time. I was listening to Peace FM.
You don't believe that? No. I heard that. I'll give you the tape. I recorded it right after a year. It's on my phone. I'll transfer it to you.
Okay, look. Okay, so you say you expect that the party should have reprimanded Kennedy Japan.
That's one. Two, I expected that the Deputy General Secretary ought to have been reprimanded by the party first of all. That is, more importantly, I am sure that when this thing started, right from day one, when former appointees were being subjected to all kinds of inhumane treatment, if we had stopped them at that time, it wouldn't have degenerated on that scale that we are seeing today.
Former appointees had cars that are thought to be stolen, collected, retrieved. Is that
something? You live in your house. I suspect that your Land Cruiser belongs to the state. I come with well-built macho men, break into your house, seize the vehicles and take them away. Is that law and order?
Can the police do that?
First of all, it was not done by the police. That's the first thing. It was led by one gentleman called Abronye DC, who proceeded to say that he will even seize human beings, not vehicles.
The Flagstaff House has set up a task force.
And I listened to him. You see, let's be very, very cautious with some of these things. I listened to him on your program, Joy FM, after they seized Ejekum's vehicle, stating that he was the head of the task force. He said that, look, the Flagstaff House is setting up a task force, and they find no less a person than this same person to lead that task force.
Okay.
They go to Ejekum's house, confiscate his vehicles.
Okay.
He shows them documentary evidence.
Thank you. Hold on there now. And hold on there now. And now, I want to ask you a question. I want to show you something that Muntumitu is saying. And he's saying now.
Oh, I wrote it.
And then you know, see how you proceed. But you know, when he mentioned about using me as an example, if people came to my house to seize, I can tell you for a fact I know how I would have dealt with them because I am not going to allow such a thing, because I believe that we don't live in a banana republic. And in the event of my, you know, rather near escape of death accident, I've heard some people say the car, my four-wheel is registered 2016, and that we should check whether it's part of those cars. What I can tell you for a fact is that you don't deserve my reply. I'm not wealthy, but I can afford that car from my pocket.
From your own sweat?
Yes. And in fact, this is my first four-wheel I bought. I sent money to a friend in America, Yawan Sujiabo. He buys cars for almost everybody at Joy FM. He bought it and sent it here. Okay, now look at this. Wontumi says that even though their action was uncalled for, they helped the party secure victory in the December elections. Where was Ken Kandapa during the elections? He questioned him in an interview on Kumasi-based Ash FM. Kandapa should know that he is in power because of this same group he is calling criminals. He never campaigned for the party, but he's rather enjoying after the group has suffered for the party. He should be very careful and shut up and behave like an elderly person.
Mr. Ladi.
Yeah.
I will decline the invitation to proceed my analysis with the submission you just read to me. I think that basically the actions of these boys are condemnable. The actions are reprehensible. These are unlawful acts. And worst case scenario, when it seeks to go into certain areas, which as a government, if you are not careful, will tend to even undermine the government itself. I will be the last one to sit here to justify whatever they have done. Secondly, these acts that are going on do not reflect in any way the mission statement of the president. What is happening here? It does not reflect even the image of the president or even the party. Look, MPP party is the last party that will seek to do things that will undermine the judiciary. It's the last party. If you check the history of the party, you will be surprised that this incident really will occur even in the court system. It is not something that any of us can sit here to say, well, what they've done, we should applaud them. It is wrong, and it is wrong. Look, you could have done anything to help the party to come to office. Let us not forget one thing. There are people who brought money to fund the campaign. There are people who are communicators on the radio stations, they were talking. Those on the TV stations who were talking. People who are also using going around house to house. It's a collective effort that won the elections. There are people who were even a silent majority who just kept quiet and were watching things as they were unfolding, and then said that, look, in view of the things that NDC were doing, they will vote them out. And rightly so, they voted them out. So if a group says that, well, in our view, we think that we are the only people, or we think that we did majority of the work, and therefore we can assume a certain posturing to undermine the government.
There's no official statement from the party, no official statement from the government, while all these things have been going on. What do you say to that?
You know, the president is on a retreat.
Where?
Oh, I don't need to disclose that where they are on a retreat. They are on a retreat. You see, I sit here.
Ignore John. John, stop interfering.
You see, after apologizing on behalf of the people, I also come and deal with John on matters.
Mary Power.
I'm waiting for him.
They say you did a fraudulent deal.
I'm waiting for him.
Something. It's a difficult topic that we are discussing, and I must tell you and be honest with you, this matter we cannot in any way justify this matter.
Okay. He says that,
And,
what do you think? Is that not fair? That when Kenneth Japong and other party officials, high up, were saying things that sought to encourage some of these things, you ought to have sanctioned them. You have to have reprimanded them at least. You didn't say anything.
Mr. Ladi, I listened to Kenneth Japong. That was on Thursday on Oman FM. And then he said that he made those earlier statements based on certain facts that were available to him. So in his view, he thought that these guys had a justifiable cause to do what they were doing, i.e., they had some reason to do what they were doing. That's why maybe he went on that tangent. But having realized that those facts are now wrong, in his view, he's not even going to lead a charge to ensure
because of their behavior, which he doesn't support.
Exactly, the right thing is done. So, sometimes you can be misled by certain facts. You will sit in your house, people come to you and give information that, look, A and B and C are going on.
That's not the question. The question is that when party leaders appear to have been endorsing and encouraging what is going on, they were not publicly reprimanded, at least.
Well, I said it's a difficult topic that we are dealing with. All I'm saying is that back and forth, Mr. Ladi, I'm saying and I keep on saying that this behavior, this act of the boys is an assault on the court system, and no government can sit back and endorse this behavior. You see, I have to apologize on behalf of these boys to our judges who are doing their work, and then you see people.
Apologizing on their behalf.
I have to apologize because what they did is wrong.
Okay.
It's wrong. It's wrong. So basically, I will not sit here to endorse whatever they have done. Now, the point I want to make is that no matter the role that you have played in ensuring the electoral victory, it does not give you the power to assume a certain authority to undermine the president. The president can never endorse this behavior. You understand? He will not endorse this behavior. So, how will anybody say, well, where was Kandapa, where was this, and where was that, and therefore these boys, yes, if they have done any work at all, and they think they have a reasonable expectation, all that they should do is that they should channel whatever they do, the right procedures and processes within the party. They cannot just go around.
Do I hear you say that you are condemning Wuntumi, the regional chairman, for also making those comments?
I am saying that whatever Wuntumi has said, which ran counter to law, it should be condemned. Any behavior, any act that you do which seeks to undermine law and rule of law in this country, we should not allow it to operate.
Okay.
Because, you see, we cannot live in a system where the law should subject people to their caprices. We can't do that.
Okay.
And MPP as a political party is the last party that will do anything to undermine rule of law. You understand? We cannot do that. So this sort of thing that is even coming up, really, I'm saying that it's something that is unknown within the party. It's not like the NDC, where the court system, all right, based on certain statements that were made, all right, to attack the Chief Justice and other people in the judiciary, and the court sentenced them to go. Then they went and, to where they go, and then they were,
What kind of statement?
Made vigil over there, all right, and then we're there. General Paul, that's the hypocrisy, hypocrisy in what you have been doing. They were there with vigil. Senior members of the party were there, all right. And then they wrote a petition to the president to the extent that they pushed the president to grant them pardon.
Nobody pushed the president to give a pardon. Nobody
the president
pushed the president.
Please.
Don't make
I was so quiet.
No, I'm directing it at something.
That is a hypocrisy in what John is saying. This matter that we are discussing now, MPP as a political party, the president of the Republic of Ghana does not support this behavior. And I'm telling you, they've been someone. Let's see how it rolls on from the next week going. You will see that they have to go through the full trial and it will punish you. whatever it is. If you have any concern, now go to the procedure within as laid down by the party to express your grievances, but not to this
obviously as a lawyer. Obviously, as a lawyer, your guild, the Ghana Bar Association has issued a very strongly worded statement calling this very horrifying, primitive, and an action that ought not to be countenanced by anybody. You will not be expected to say differently, but of course that's what has to happen. The judges and the judicial service also issued a statement, and they said that they have no doubt in their minds that the Ghanaian society will be with them in describing the act as primitive, uncivilized, uncouth, primordial, and above all, criminal. Kofi, if it is criminal, what should happen?
They should be just subjected to the process and be punished as usual. Look, my worry is that this is taking a lot of moral high ground from the MPP. And I think I like the way Gary is approaching it, because, look, if this doesn't stop, this will be the beginning of the end of the MPP. I am happy to note that from the president through to some senior members of the party, they condemn the act and they apologize for it, and they want to assure us that it won't happen again. But I worry. I worry because Honorable Kandapa sat in Parliament and denied the existence of these groups. Now that was very worrying. National security is first and foremost. He said they were not registered.
Yes, but not denied the existence.
He said they were not registered. There is meaning to what I'm trying to say. And I think that it was sad he did that, because it was as if he wanted to, push the matter under the carpet. And then in a very short time, they come up and then they attack a court. Ladies and gentlemen, the court is the final bulwark in this our democracy. If we start attacking courts, we are all going to be subject to the jungle, the rule of the jungle. And to attack a judge, since this thing happened, anytime an MPP person tries to equalize with the Muntie 3 thing, you get a rebuttal because you have lost the moral high ground. And there is a certain lesson there that whether you toast it or you fry it or you boil it or you bake it, whichever way you turn this one, there is no way of making it look good. So I think that seeming division in MPP, and that's the next point I want to make, it seems there's a division in MPP. The higher ups and some of the more organized, more formal leaders, Nana, the ministers, Gary and co, seem to be condemning it. But you have people like Chema Wontumi who clearly support it. That division must be resolved. Because look, speaking for whatever interaction I have had, people who voted for MPP find this absolutely appalling. Okay, judges are people we call my lord. Gary, we call them your worship.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, we give them titles that we ordinarily give God. And you know what it means. Okay, even the president's actions are subject to the review of a judge. So the last thing you do is to attack a court. So there's not much we can say about this. I think the Ghanaian populace itself is giving its verdict. And like I said, if this doesn't stop, I have one last point. It will be the beginning of your end. The failure of the police, I think, is something we should mention.
Yes, I want you to come to that after we have heard, because you made reference to the minister going to Parliament and making the statements that these were not registered. He's come under a lot of attack because he says that these are not registered. And people are asking, do you expect that who will register Vigilante group? Let's hear the Minister for National Security, Kandapa, when he appeared before Parliament to answer a question tabled by the Honorable Muntaka Mubarak for Asawasi on the issue of disbanding vigilante groups. When we hear him, we'll hear Ambrose Derry, who is the Interior Minister, what he also had to say, and then the IGP, what he had to say about this development. We'll come back and hear Kofi finish up on that point.
There is no legally registered vigilante group. So I don't know of any person who belongs to any such group. But of course, it is not possible that the national security agencies will absorb into the agencies anybody who has a criminal background. Security checks are undertaken, criminal checks are undertaken to make sure that everybody who is employed into the national security system has passed the necessary security and criminal checks. And again, I want to emphasize, we must try not to politicize the security agencies, and we commit ourselves to doing just that.
That when you run foul of the law, you shall be subjected to the law. Look, don't detract us by irrelevant things. Whatever party you belong, whatever position you hold, our position is the rule of law reigns supreme in this country. Yes, we respect your rights in the context of that. And so I think that we arrested them and send them to court to have their day in court. Whatever it is, I'm happy that so far none of you has been able to contradict me that there is a situation where we haven't gone through those steps. MPP or NDC, CPP or PNC, Ghanaian or foreigner. You break the law in Ghana, you're subject to the law, you shall be arrested, you shall go to investigations, you shall go to due process.
They send them to the Kumasi Metropolitan Authority Circuit Court, presided over by Her Highness Mary Insenchire. The judge remanded the accused persons to prison custody to reappear on the 20th of April. After the announcement, the news went out to some supporters of the accused persons who besieged the court. In the process, the 13 accused persons escaped through the back door being used by the presiding judge. 8 of the people who enabled the accused persons to escape have been arrested, and they are in the prison custody, police custody. Bench warrant has also been issued for the arrest of the 13 accused persons who have escaped. This is the facts of the case. We had police officers at the court, and we had about 20 officers also on the standby. But if you remember, we had asked, we gave the accused persons bail. I mean, when they were suspects, we gave them bail. Police bail. And they willingly appeared before the court. So you can imagine the extent of the danger or the likelihood of they escaping was not as high as we would believe. So yes, there were police officers there, but they were overwhelmed by the numbers that came to the court, besieged the court to enable these accused persons to escape.
All right, so you heard the Honorable Kandapa, the National Security Minister, you heard Ambrose Derry, Interior Minister, you heard the IGP himself, David Asantea PA2. Now, there are some claims that the IGP has made that are being subjected to questioning because the regional command, the Shanti Regional Command, appears to give a rather different number. That they said they had a couple of police officers there. They didn't anticipate that this was going to happen. And now he is sitting in Accra and says 20 officers were sent there. Who do we believe now? Lawyers who were in that courtroom, some have spoken to me and say that the incident began right from the morning when the court commenced. Circuit courts start work by 8:30. The high courts normally start at 9. By 8:30, the people were coming in and they were making a lot of noise in the premises. And some of the lawyers said they prompted the police officers that what was going on was wrong. The judge actually expressed disquiet about the noise because it was not helpful to the court. Now, between the place where you have the KMA Circuit Court and the police regional headquarters in Kumasi is less than 5 minutes drive. Between that time and the time when the case for the Delta Force was heard was almost an hour interval or more, because the judge's decision on the day was to finish with civil cases before she would deal with criminal cases. So they had to sit there and wait for all that long. How does the police answer some of these questions? We'll go on the phone lines to speak to Erastus Asaredonko, who is in Kumasi, to bring out just bits of what may have happened, and then we'll let Kofi finish on his point. Erastus, if you're on the line, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to Newsfile.
Thank you, Samson.
Right. Tell us what you know.
Well, on the day of the court, when the proceedings started, a number of well-built men had gathered around the premises of the court, numbering over 40. And in fact, when the 13 accused were ushered into the courtroom, it was a packed court indeed. And their pleas were taken and their charges read, and they pleaded not guilty. The lawyer and the prosecutor placed their arguments, and the judge ruled that indeed, judging, he has listened to them both, but she thinks that if they are given bail, they will not appear before the court. And so they should be remanded into prison custody to reappear on the 20th of April. And that was when pandemonium broke, because other members who heard the news did not agree that they thought the court process was just a cover-up, they were told. And so they will not allow that to happen. So they stormed the inner perimeter of the court, asking the 13 to follow them. And so the few policemen, numbering about 6, and these included some of the prosecutors who had come to present their case in court, and then the 2 police officers who normally maintain order within the court. So they rushed in to protect the judge, and the members of the other supporters stormed in, used the exits that normally the judge will use, but broke them out and left. So as they were going, they were insulting, using insulting languages against the judges, some of them unprintable, and telling them to leave. Let's go, let's move. And then they left. It was after that a reinforcement of police, armed police, came in, numbering about 18, came into the court premises, but then the issue had elapsed and people have left, and they rounded up some few people there.
Okay. What do you know about this group and its operation in Kumasi? Because it looks like they are rather based in Kumasi, the Delta Force. We hear about invisible forces in parts of the country, but as for the Delta Force, we seem to be hearing about them from Kumasi only. What can you tell us about them?
In fact, the vigilante groups in Kumasi is not limited to Delta Force.
Okay.
But you're hearing Delta Force. We have invisible forces here. We have active macho. And then we have other groups. There are about 6 or so. And then we have individual politicians who employ the services of some of these groups, boys, known criminals. In fact, many of these boys we're talking about, some of them are known criminals who have gone to prison and back and forth. Some of them have perpetrated atrocities. They've gone in and out of prison, and you cannot tame them. In fact, some have raped people, some, especially one who stormed the Amakum area, subjected a guy there to series of beatings and stole his equipment and all that. If you remember, during the 2012 elections, we have Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, who is now the education minister. He was in a company of some of these boys. He went on a door-to-door campaign where they butchered and, in fact, tried to shoot Matthews, who is an NDC supporter, also one of these well-built men. And as a result, he nearly died, spent about a month at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital. And then later on, his men also retaliated, went to some of the boys who accompanied Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh that day, stormed Ashtown, and then butchered him in broad daylight and killed him. And now I understand there are other guys, well-built men, who are also, because the NPP has come to power, they are also trying to retaliate, I have heard. Now we have Mr. Yawobimpe, for example, who is the regional chairman of the NDC, who stood on Insha FM here and defended some of the boys, the Vigilante group, well-built men, that they had committed atrocities in the past. He was the one who bailed them out, and that he stands by whatever they do. So we have individuals who use politicians from both sides, NDC, MPP, who use these gentlemen to perpetrate all manner of crimes. When we come to the Tafo skirmishes, you found some of these guys who were there. They were vandalizing vehicles. They were destroying people's property in broad daylight. There were armed policemen who were standing there and doing nothing. When you go to Asafu Interchange, there was a dispute over a small piece of land there. We had vigilante groups who came there and ordered people to fence that particular building. And the police came around. They, instead of arresting the people who brought them there, the vigilante groups stood there and had a chat with them, but rather arrested the artisans who were employed to work on that building. So when we want to go on, we'll go on and on and on and on and on. But these are groups who are being used to perpetrate one form of crime or another by the various political parties.
All right. Erasu, thanks for that background. But we understand that the IGP is in Kumasi now, and he's going to be addressing a press conference. When exactly is this starting? Well,
currently, I understand it's in session. We have some of our reporters on ground there who are monitoring the
So, yeah, try and bring us up to speed on what he has to do. Thank you very much, Erasu Sasaredonko, with Love FM, and giving us some perspective of the developments going on there in Kumasi. Yes, so you were now going to the aspect that this, after addressing what you found was a problem within the NPP itself and what you think ought to be done because this is criminal.
Yeah. You know, in any democracy, the final tool for law enforcement is the police. And in this case, look, I tell my friends in the police all the time that regardless of what problems we have with them here in Ghana, they are amongst the finest forces, at least in West Africa. The Ghana police, absolutely fantastic. But this was a catastrophic failure. No judge should ever have to fear for him or herself. Absolutely not. Otherwise, our democracy is undermined. You have a situation where these people were broken out of custody. They invaded the judge's private space. And if you listen to Rastos, not all of them are model citizens. One small thing, somebody gets offended, and the last time they did this at the Regional Security Coordinator's office, there was bloodshed. Apparently some glasses were broken out of mistake. What if a mistake happened and somebody got hurt or the judge was affected?
This time they protected the judge very well, and so the judge was not hurt. Look, but Kofi, what is this? They were granted police inquiry bail. Why did the judge believe that they should not be granted bail? I know police sometimes use bail as a punishment, but the law says you should not use bail as a punishment. So depending on how a policeman feels and the association to a case, they may decide that they won't grant you bail. Go to court and rather look for the bail in court. But this case, they granted these guys bail and they came to the court. The natural expectation would have been that the judge will say, I confirm the police bail and the conditions thereon. So let them go and come and stand trial.
I really would have liked to discuss that angle, which is the use of bail and all those things and how it plays in. I'm not sure this is the right place, and I don't think we'll be helping our audience. The point I want to make is that regardless of whatever happens, the police should have known that this kind of situation required more men. I'm happy they protected the judge. But you see, it's something we teach in business class all the time. You look at the size of your task, and then you arrange the kind of resources you need to deal with it. And like you were saying, even if they made a mistake in estimating the resources they needed at the beginning, you had all this time. So was there no kind of monitoring of the situation? I worry that you have a situation like this where people mass up, break into a court, basically intimidate the judge. That catastrophic failure of the police, I think, should be watched, and some people must answer questions. I'm happy the IGP is there. Look, at the end of the day, this should not happen again.
Okay.
This should not happen again.
Right. We
Let's
hear
hear from
Kweku Bako, and then we go on a quick break and return to deal with other matters. Yes, Kweku.
See, I think that Mr. Kandapa's statement in Parliament, I think perhaps people are being unfair to him, including my good friend Kofi. A question was asked in the name of Mubarak Muntaka. I think he wasn't present, so somebody asked it on his behalf. The whole thing is disbandment of political vigilante groups. This is the answer. It says, asked the Minister for National Security when all political vigilante groups will be disbanded. His answer might have been politically incorrect, quote unquote, but legally sound. His answer was, Mr. Speaker, my information is that there are no legally registered political vigilante groups in the country, and for that matter, there are no such groups to be disbanded. He was talking law in the House of Lawmakers. If a group is not legally registered, how do you disband it? Using the law. But to be fair, he proceeded further and he said, however, we need to be pragmatic and accept that foot soldiers of the leading political parties have been known to constitute themselves into action groups to molest and unleash violence on the peace-loving people of this country, either from within or outside their political parties. Mr. Speaker, we need to stop such activities because these action groups have the tendency to degenerate into militant groups that can have serious repercussions on the security of the country. He further elaborated on these things. And if I may read this too, Mr. Speaker, we must not mix criminality with politics. Lawlessness must be punished as demanded by the laws of our country. Government has made it clear to the Inspector General of Police to deal appropriately with all criminals irrespective of their political affiliations. This thing about disbandment reoccurred about two more times, and each time he tried to put the context right. Because if you want, you're going to look, the police claimed they were going to ban all these groups prior to the 2016 elections. Yeah. I suspect this is the difficulty they went through. You can announce that you've banned Invisible Forces or Delta Force or Azoka Boys. These are not registered. The next morning, they could be coming in another guise. Okay, we won't use the name Invisible.
How do you even disband it?
Yes, that's the point I'm making. So in actual fact, that was the drift of his submission. But if you go through the contents of his statement, he acknowledges the fact that these groups are a threat to national security.
You say that comment was politically incorrect. What was politically incorrect about it?
A lot of the reaction going on is what shows. People don't, it's not easily digestible. You know, you can't take it from the political angle. People's media, what is he saying? That these groups don't exist when we see them, when they are creating problems. But it's because he was looking in Parliament, it's not just the politics, it's also the law. And dependent on the question that is being posed, you have to be very precise. But fortunately, he didn't just say, so we can't do anything about them. Okay. He says within the context of law and order, these activities, these groups are perpetrating criminal activities. And that he expects, and it's all in the Hansard, he expects that the Ministry of Interior, the police, and the appropriate law enforcement agencies will perceive these groups, will see these groups for what they are in terms of their actions. Okay? Sometimes these groups could go out and do all sorts of things. You know, invisible. You hear a spokesperson, I'm spokesperson. Yes, you can invite that spokesperson. But if you want to punish in court of law, those who are perpetrating the act in the street, they are important. Or you can go and put somebody in court and there will be insufficient evidence to pin that charge on him. I mean, you are lawyers, I'm not. So I believe maybe you get my drift better. In terms of direct responsibility for some of these actions. So I think that I'm suggesting that perhaps Kensington, we should be a bit cool about it.
This is what one police officer has had to say about the vigilante groups. And you would recognize, you will see that CODEO, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, issued a statement this week, which is a communique at the end of a workshop where I was part of in Ada. One of the police officers, very professional man, Dr. Benjamin Agbozo, made a presentation, and this is what he had to say about vigilante groups. He says that the pressure on police to stop political vigilante groups is the pressure on police to stop political vigilante groups, not a diversionary tactic to divert attention from the real issues at stake. In fact, the more we pile pressure on the police to solve political vigilante problem, the farther we are as a nation from solving the issue. And this is a policeman who's in charge of reformation in the police. He says that, is it not high time we saw the issue of vigilante groups as a social problem across board and had a national conversation on it, instead of blaming the police, who are the cheapest scapegoats? Have we thought of the implications of not dealing with the vigilante threat to Ghana's security 4, 8, or 12 years from now? And then he concludes by saying, if you thought that vigilante activities constitute a problem now, then wait until it truly explodes. I call it Ghana's unexploded political ordinance, GUPO, Ghana's unexploded political ordinance. Yes. Let Kuku finish. Yes.
And the Kandapa even went forward to say, Mr. Speaker, we must resolve as a house to urge political leaders in the country to come together to deliberate on measures to discourage the establishment and recognition of such groups in political structures in the interest of state security. It is clear that he is not denying that such groups do exist and constitute a threat to the public. Now, you know, maybe the alternative call should have been on the political leaders to dissolve these groups within their own parties, because the groups exist, and you've heard some of them come out to suggest that, look, they work for us. When we are holding rallies, they protect the rally. When we are doing demonstrations, this is what they do, and do all that. So it's more a matter of some voluntarism in if you seek dissolving them or disciplining them. Now there's a point that was made by, I think it's John, this thing about some arrangement that the political leaders of the Ashanti region had, you know, told the boys that, oh, look, we've arranged and all that. I don't want to believe that nonsense.
The host of the show that he refers to, as Empire FM, Ekosi Senkaba, confirms that what John Jinapo is talking about is true. Of course, Koku said he heard bits of that, but just that he doesn't want to believe it. That the guy they spoke to, who claims to be the leader, is Sali Sukum, who made that assertion that the leadership of the party in the region assured them that they only needed to present themselves in court and the matter will be handled. So when the court went out of the negotiated agreement, his boys went angry and decided to free them.
The judge's ruling.
The morning one too, you reconfirmed that this morning.
The judge's ruling, which was that I'm remanding you guys, shows the futility of the so-called negotiated settlement. It didn't happen. They were deceiving their people, massaging their egos and things. Here is a situation where the judge did something contrary to what the people had been told. So I put no value on that. The fact that he said it, it's fine. It's not good enough. But you see, it's the reflection of their level of understanding of all these things.
Right.
It's the people, they listen. And unfortunately, some of the political heavyweights who speak to that worry me. Because indeed, if I have to be honest, I heard Mr. Japan also say something close to that by saying that, look, the idea is that why do you want to punish these people? Let them go to court, let the court just warn them something and free, tell them go, say no more, that kind of thing. That's not law. If after the court has tried them and sentenced them and the lawyer wants to plead for, is it mitigation? That's fine. That's what I know to be law. But not that you package some arrangement somewhere. Yes, but those who are consuming it, it's their level. They assume that these things are possible. And I tell you, the Ashanti regional chairman also should be careful. If I were him, I would stop talking. Look, Kandapa, if I were the president, or if I were to advise the president, I would keep Kandapa at that place. He's doing a lot of good to the party's image and the government's image.
They've been insulting him in town.
Incredible. Because of what he's supposed to be doing and saying. Those attacking him, the things they are saying, rather, is undermining the integrity of this government and especially of the president. So Kandapa must be doing something right.
Why is the party not disciplining the people you are referring to here?
That's important. It's a good question. And I heard a party acting chairman trying to walk in a tightrope when this question was posed to him by Kaba. And the point about an expression of opinion. But I thought in their party constitution, there are provisions, and maybe my brother will help, that if you bring what your conduct brings the party into dispute, you are object of disciplinary proceedings. So, yes, opinion.
Gary says it is Article 3, and they have used it to discipline people like Rekubrobe and co.
Swiftly. Swiftly.
John, what is your problem?
So that option is there. That option is there. Okay.
And the police's approach, or the national security's approach to resolving the vigilante process, groups. Now that we have people who have confessed that they sponsor them, including Kene Japan, who speaks about having had to travel same day between a certain place, catch flights to Kumasi to get these boys and take care of them so that they'll protect the party and all of that. Well, is it not easy to now deal with these groups because we know those who sponsor them?
You are the lawyers, so I'll be very cautious. For instance, this case we have at hand, the assault on the regional security coordinator,
right,
and then the invasion of the court, these specific offenses. Can we bring in the so-called sponsors and charge them? I find it difficult. It's a gray area. I'm not that educated when it comes to law. So I want to focus on the known and visible perpetrators.
Okay.
Deal with them according to law. The 13 people, if it's just them, and that's what the intelligence and the investigations point to, they must be prosecuted, and the court must be allowed. The court must then do its own justice.
Okay.
They escaped. I think there should be an additional charge.
Right.
Escape from lawful custody.
That is correct.
You should add it.
Out of lawful custody.
Then those who invaded the court, maybe that's their way of killing the cat.
100 of them. Very undemocratic way of killing the cat.
Yeah, there are many ways of killing. I know.
Killing the cat.
I'm not.
But it's a way.
There are legal ways of killing the cat.
It is a way.
It should be punished. That's what I'm saying.
So this one is illegal.
And their conduct too. Additionally, their conduct. You know, when you stand by a court and you make noise,
fantastic.
It's contempt.
Yes.
They went beyond making noise, went into the courtroom and freed the people.
Thank you.
This is the height of contempt.
That's right. That's right. That too should. And you know, here I have nothing against custodial sentence.
Okay.
My view has always been custodial sentence related to contempt that goes for speech or publication.
Okay.
It's a matter of conscientious objection. But this one must should attract custodial sentence.
Okay.
Look, a culture of deterrence we have problems, we have challenges. I've said it before. Some people have been arrested in the past. Some have been sent to court. There was no conclusion. It's about time from today that now we see evidence of how the prosecutions ended. And I pray that we'll have custodial sentences.
Okay. We are supposed to take a break. I'll let you do the 30 seconds. Sankuma draws our attention on social media to this amendment to the Criminal and Other Offences Act. And it provides, that is section 200A. And the heading is Organized Criminal Group. If the police are unaware, and sometimes in our practice we assist our friends in the police to do the charges. 1. A person who participates in an activity of an organized criminal group commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a maximum penalty of death and to a minimum penalty of not less than 5 years imprisonment. So if you are dealing with the misdemeanor aspect of them, you may want to look at this one as well, because you've been charged with assault, misdemeanor, it looks like, causing harm at a level that will be misdemeanor, and one other, I think maybe offensive conduct. And it says that an organized criminal group is a structured group acting in concert with the aim of committing a serious offense. For the purposes of this act, a serious offense means an offense for which the maximum penalty is death and the minimum penalty is imprisonment for a period not less than 5 years. And a structured group consists of 2 or more persons that is not randomly formed for the commission of an offense, and in which the members may or may not have defined roles, continuity of membership, or which may or may not have a developed structure. So it looks like if you use this, then they may be looking for a death. No, your 30 seconds, quickly.
30 seconds,
I'll come to you. 30 seconds, yes.
I don't mean to be, unfair to Honorable Dapa, my uncle. The question did not want to say or did not suggest that they were a registered group. He's the Minister for National Security. These are asymmetric organizations. So the question is, we have a de facto problem. As the Minister for National Security, what are you going to do with them? Maybe you use the word disband. Yes, he used the word disband.
Not him, the questioner.
The questioner, that's what I mean. He used the word disband. But my understanding was, what are you going to do about these people? He may have answered it later on.
Yes, he did.
What I'm saying is that there is legalism. Legalism is trying to use the law to avoid justice.
Okay.
So what I'm simply trying to say is that, that angle, the optics, even how it sounded wasn't right. National security itself, it's about asymmetric warfare. Things that are not on the surface, very easy for the law to deal with, very easy for military to deal with, very easy for police to deal with. So I think it was a fair question, and I understand that he may have answered it that way, but the problem is real. So I felt that he should have come and said, look, and you know what? He didn't answer the question.
No, subsequently, if you read the answer.
Yeah.
What I read, my 30 seconds, what I read is he described the problem. I still don't have a solution to the problem.
No.
The media didn't give us the full benefit of what he said.
He gave us a plan for dealing
he
with
said
them.
a few other things. Okay, you to your 30 seconds. We are going for a break.
Questions in Parliament.
I think something, what I simply want to say is that
okay,
police,
thank you.
The police must ensure that at least security is beefed up anytime this case comes for hearing.
Right.
Because I've been involved in certain of these political cases that we see how they come there.
You do a lot of them.
And they make sure security is okay and everybody is safe. The judges are safe, litigants are safe. Even supporters, they come there and everything is fine. So
should some heads be rolling at the regional command at least for not anticipating this?
Oh, I think the IGP ought to do something about it, because I reasonably suspect that they should have anticipated that. Look, this case is not just an ordinary matter.
He ought to do something about it. He's in Kumasi. He just held the press conference there.
Well, let's see what
is that not enough?
Let's see. No, that's not enough. We should make sure that at least we avert a reoccurrence of these events.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sometimes I have 3 issues, but I'll quickly go through them. First of all, is the
you
issue
said 30
about,
seconds. Now you say 3 issues.
But I'll quickly deal with them. The first thing is about the issue of Honorable Kandapa. I think that he did justice to the question, but I can't fault him because the way the media reported it, and I just read some headlines, there are no vigilante groups to be disbanded. But that is not what he said.
Registered.
So sometimes the way we report it, because he might not have seen the hazard, he was not in Parliament, would depend on the media for the information. So I would plead with the media to try and report as accurately as they can, so that we have the. Then the next one is the bail. You are a lawyer. I'm sure that the judge would have taken into account the conduct of the suspects, even in court.
Right.
Before granting them bail.
Yeah.
If you realize that you are rowdy, you are not comporting yourself, and you want bail, based on that alone, she might decide not to grant
Maybe
it.
they acted on the false
think it was
assurance.
Then the last one
The remanding was good.
is the police.
To be honest with
So
you,
they are
these guys,
in
they
until the
need to
20th
be
of April.
disciplined.
The last one has to do with the job of the
They
police.
should be sanctioned and
The
disciplined.
Delta Force claims they are about 1,000 in number. 1,000.
Oh,
So
there could be
first of all,
exaggeration.
I
Don't waste
think
your
that the
time on
police
that.
did a good job by protecting the judge.
Okay.
Because look, these groups, you have the Delta Force, the Invisible Force,
Azoka
the
Boys.
Kandahar,
Azoka Boys.
the Matule
They went
Matata Boys,
hunting a car.
Somehow you never
Azoka
mentioned
Boys.
the group that is associated with the NDC.
That's what they do.
Action Troopers.
You politicians.
Bulldog
Okay,
Bulldogs.
thank you. And so you see what the politicians do. Even when the matter is such serious that it threatens the very democracy of this country, they still play politics with this equalization, which is so.
No, but this thing rests
We'll
with
take
the
a break. We'll be right back. I'll share some of your messages that you have been sharing with us.